Today, I want to share with you everything you need to know about the sleeper account process. This is the most advantage you can possibly get in the early game in Rise of Kingdoms. And my account is very old. Actually, my account is now 2,413 days old. So I've brought on a special guest who you may recall from a prior video about sleepers and jumpers. That's Vast, who's running a very large group that's about to use this process. Welcome to the vid, and I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself so everybody can get to know you and the project that you're running.
Yeah, hey everyone, it's Vast again. I am the founder of the Restart project known as the Shogunate. As a brief history of my experience in the game is I've been playing Rise of Kingdoms for something close to 6 years now. First started getting like R5 leader experience in 2969, and then gradually becoming more involved in Kingdoms as I got more involved in Rise of Kingdoms, being council in other kingdoms such as 3126 and other younger kingdoms. And going into my project, we are, as I said earlier, known as the Shogunate. There are just under 1,700 members involved, and we plan to start around May 31st. Our leadership team is made up of kings from just about 15 different kingdoms, all coming together to make one massive restart project again. I think that's about it relative to the project.
Well,
yeah.
I appreciate the info. I flashed some of my account stuff in the background so people know how serious I am about the game. If you're new to Rise of Kingdoms, I spent about 150 grand on my account, more than that actually at this point. But we've got basically a veteran, that's me, in the end game, paired with Vast here, who is a master of the early game, and together we're going to bring you this guide about what to do. And if you're looking to join a project, what's your project start date again? It's the end of May of this year, right?
Yeah. Our sleeper process will start May 31st, and our final kingdom will be around June 8th or 10th.
Huge. So link will be in the description if you want to join them. I'd encourage you to do so if you're thinking about starting the game or starting over. And let's talk about what this sleeper process is. Long story short, the way the sleeper process works is you say, hey, instead of just starting in a kingdom and playing the game, okay, which is like, you know, how I play most games, you do something a little bit sneaky, and you use these items called passports to migrate. So when you play this game, you start in a server, and you can migrate to other servers. Now, there's a bunch of rules about who can go where. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But you're basically going to make an account in a brand new server, play it for some amount of time, and then migrate to a younger server by like 10 or so days. There's a bunch of rewards you're going to get by virtue of doing that. And also, because you've been playing for 10 days longer than everybody else in the server you go to, you get a pretty major advantage, right? That's like the very simple summary of this process.
Yep, that's right.
Cool. And typically when you do this, you're not doing it as like a solo individual, although you could. Typically, I think you do this as a part of a group like the one you're running, right?
Correct. Doing it with a group will allow you to have other people that are doing the process alongside you and kind of help you along your journey throughout the sleeper process. It's much better to do it with a group than by yourself.
Yeah, and people are going to have like so many questions when they get started, for ranging from like, what civilization do I start with, all the way down to, you know, like, what should I be researching, etc. Speaking of which, okay, so the first step here is you make your account. What civilization do you recommend these days that a sleeper account start with?
So the civilization has not changed much in recent years. It's always been China. Unless Rise of Kingdoms released some brand new, really overpowered civilization, it will always remain China, because Sun Tzu is a very versatile commander, and you also get building speed, like a building speed boost that'll help you in your time trying to power up as quickly as you can at the start of a kingdom. So China is most definitely the best pick you can make.
There it is. So the starting civilization gives you three different things. It gives you more sculptures of a specific commander. For China, it's Sun Tzu, who's Obviously, very, very versatile and one of the best epic commanders in the game. You get a special unit, but that only shows up around tier 4 troops. That's not really going to matter for this process at all. And then you've got these passive bonuses, and that passive bonus of 5% building speed, obviously very critical at the start of the game when your objective is to do a bunch of building. So you pick China, you start the game, and you start playing in your brand new server. I'm showing a brand new server on the screen here. Looks like 3815 at the time of this recording is literally 5.5 hours old. So you start your brand new account in this server, and you play it for almost a full 20 days, right?
Yes. If you're with a group, they'll tend to have you go a little lower than 20 days so that you are actually insured to get to their kingdom in the final kingdom. But process, you'll typically get an 18 to 20-day process with the
Okay.
sleeper.
And there's a reason that it's that 18 to 20 day process. It's because you can only migrate backward to a kingdom that's like up to 10 days younger, right?
Correct. It can't even be a second over. If it's a second over, then you'll have to say goodbye to all the friends you made in that project, because you will not be able to migrate to them until after KVK1 at the earliest.
Okay. So the timeline is very critical. Like you're going to play for that upwards of like a 20-day timeline, but you can only go back slightly, like you can't go back to a kingdom more than 10 days younger than yours, right? So you got to be really careful. And that migration process, how far in does that open up? Well, I guess it's exactly like 10 days in that migrations open up. Is that about right?
So migration opens up for a kingdom when they reach 10 days old.
Okay.
Which, yeah.
So looking at the kingdom list now, I'm scrolling through and like 3806 is 7 days old. So migration wouldn't even be open there, but 3800, they're 14 days old. They would have migration open. But to use an example here, I'm looking at kingdom. Let's go with, let's do this one. 3799 is like 15 days old and 13 hours. So if you were in this kingdom, you'd keep playing and you'd keep playing till you're almost at that 20-day mark, right? And there's a bunch of advantages to this beyond just the extra time. You're also getting a bunch of like holy sites that you capture and first capture rewards in the kingdom you're in and then the kingdom you migrate to, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's 10 days. You have to, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, you go for a kingdom that is exactly 10 days of age after like 10 days younger than your starter kingdom.
Okay. So as an example, and I don't know if you have this up now, but like if you were in kingdom 3796, it's 20 days and 7 hours old. You could migrate back to, let's see here, kingdom 3802, which is 11 days and 12 hours old. Like, that's like the right difference of age?
Yeah, as long as it's within the 10-day migration range, then you are good to migrate to that kingdom.
Okay. So do people sometimes like wait 30 days instead of 20 days?
So people that do that miss out on one of the big benefits that Sleeper provides, and that is you're able to get level 2 holy site rewards for a second time.
Okay.
Because how monuments work is young kingdoms typically get their level 2 altars on their 12th or 13th day. If you wait for 30 days of that process, then your destination kingdom will be 20 days old, and you would have missed that big benefit you get with being a sleeper.
Okay. I wanted to show the monument now, but because I'm in the Lost Kingdom, which is KVK, I actually have the KVK Chronicles instead of the Home Kingdom Chronicles. But basically, events unfold in your kingdom in a building called the Monument. You can see the chronicles of your kingdom. Different things open up in sequence as your kingdom gets older and time elapses. And there's just a ton of rewards that you can get by virtue of being in the sort of alliances that are capitalizing on that, which is a big part of your goal in this process. So you really do want to stick as close as possible to that, 20 days old, go back to your 10-day-old kingdom. And then the other thing that you mentioned as sort of a hazard as we were chatting about this is that, look, some number of really young kingdoms are going to be these rising star kingdoms. So these are the top kingdoms. It says until the start of season 2, governors with more than 10 million power cannot migrate to the top 25% of powerful kingdoms in the region. So what this means is that if you're joining a big group, like I assume this will be the case for your project, right? Like you guys have got to be a rising star. You guys have a huge group. You're going to be top, which means your sleeper players have to stay under 10 million power, right?
See, that would be the case if we were going for the D-type kingdom, which is the final kingdom in that KVK1 region. But because we're going for the second kingdom, we have about a 2 to 3 day grace period where players that are above 10 million power can migrate to our kingdom, because the star only takes effect when the entire continent or KVK1 region is 10 days old.
So, but you're saying you can kind of cheat this a little bit by virtue of, I see it now. Oh, I do see it now. So the prior region doesn't have a rising star because one of their kingdoms is only 8 days old. That's why.
Correct.
Okay, I get it now. I get it. So there will be a window where people that can be a part of your group, they can power up like crazy, but they have to be less than 25 million power because there's still that hard cap for everybody. And, newer players to the game are looking at all this and it sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, I'm sure, but in the end game, the king of the kingdom can set what the power level is for people to migrate to your server. And there's no king of a kingdom at the start because you have to take the middle objective, the Lost Temple, to crown a king. So by default, it's set to 25 million. And the only other way that can change is if you are the rising star. So what your group's going to do is you're going to go in and you're going to try to be one of the oldest kingdoms in your region. So that, like using this grouping as an example, if you were 38, this is maybe not the best example. What's the oldest one in this region? Well, I guess, do I have a good one? Yeah, this is it. 3801 is 13 days old, right? Whereas 3804 is still only that 8 days old. So you'll have like potentially even a 4 or 5 day window where people could still migrate in and be up to that 25 mil power before, your huge group almost certainly becomes the rising star, right?
Right. Yeah. There's no way we don't become star because of the amount of the amount of money in the project. I'd be very surprised if we don't get star right off the bat and we keep it for the rest of the time until KVK starts.
So just to help people have some perspective around this, how many people are in your group?
So we have about 1,700 people that have shown interest in the project.
That's 1,700 people.
Correct.
Okay. Correct. Yeah. Big group. See, I told everybody at the start of the video, I was like, this is the guy. He's the guy with the group. This is the thing. And it makes a lot of sense. A kingdom that starts like this has a lot of potential. I mean, we were talking before this, I hit record here, but you've been organizing this since August of 2024 and you're not actually running until honestly, it's like June of 2025.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's a special kind of crazy, the level of organization that goes into these groups, but I respect the hustle and the grind. And, the end result should be really exciting to follow along as well. So, okay, we're going through all these details of the sleeper process. You start with China, you go at a time that your group leader tells you, so you don't have to think about it too much. The group leader just says, okay, start here. You start building up your account. What are like the big no-nos or pitfalls that could wreck someone doing this process? Obviously, you need to stay under 25 million power if you're doing this sleeper process. You're going to need to buy passports, which we talked about earlier in the video, but passports are required to migrate. You need a certain amount, and the amount you need is based on your power. Most people, let me ask this. Should most people doing this sleeper process be a big spender? Or is this a process that you can do as like a light spender in the game, and you just go with a smaller group or something like that?
So this process is highly recommended for all the free to play and low spenders because you no longer have that jumping process to give you that week of advantage that you would generally have. But this is like it's open to any type of spending level. Free to play, low spender, if they can do it correctly, then they have a massive advantage over other free to play and low spenders. Because the amount of holy sites you could potentially get is it's a crazy number. I'll use one of the past sleeper groups I've led as an example. In 3470, I led their sleeper group, and I was able to give a few of the members there 30 plus level 1 holy sites and around 15 to 20 level 2 altars, all before we got to the final kingdom.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's do you actually have like the gem count for what that is, or like the speed up
I
count offhand?
I do not. All
Okay.
I know is that it was a ridiculous amount for the free to play, and the free to play were able to get very solid accounts, to say the least, for KVK1.
Yeah. If you're new to the game and you're like, what are all these holy sites? The holy sites are these little things in the home kingdom. They give buffs. Your alliance builds territory to them, and you capture them. And there's first capture rewards, and that's what we're talking about here as being these rewards that like normally you get a few of them, but to get so many of them and then to just go to another kingdom and get a bunch of them all over again, it is a really big deal in terms of the volume of rewards. Now, I thought there was a limit to the number of people that could migrate to a kingdom. So I thought the number of people doing this process was limited. Isn't there some sort of limit to the number of people that could migrate using a sleeper process, or no?
So the only limit is that there is a timer that comes in if you start getting like hundreds of like several dozen people coming in like a few seconds. The Lilith has it set up to where there's a timer, and I've seen that timer go up to like 30 seconds, which is like nothing, to an upwards of a few hours, and you just wait with no alliance for those few hours as you migrate.
Okay,
But
so
yeah.
they do throttle the migration volume if too many are migrating to a kingdom, but there's no cap that you're aware of to the number of people that can do this process.
Yeah, there's no limit to the number of people that can do the process. There is a limit to the amount of space in the alliances you're trying to get to, though.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, alliance can only have 100, and a new alliance is going to have way less than that because you have to. Well, I guess it's 150. But there's like research and buildings and things that you need in order to be able to do that. Wow. Okay. Interesting. So, are you going to have like literally almost everybody in your group do this process of a sleeper with a passport?
So we are having the majority of our project is going to be a sleeper. We are currently organizing the people who will lead the sleeper alliances and who will lead the alliances in the native final kingdom. We are currently organizing that, but yeah, most of our projects are going to be sleepers. So that way, on day 10, we just explode in power.
Yeah. No
and
kidding.
and all that. Like will just go up by crazy amounts. I've been watching some of the newer kingdoms since the jumper process has been removed, and a lot of the groups that have a heavy focus on their sleeper accounts nearly double in power when their sleeper migrates come in, and that could be an understatement. But
So the only reason you wouldn't do this if you're free to play, I guess, is if you can't figure out how to get your passport to migrate.
yeah,
But there is a way to do that. You can get a passport for free, right? It's 600
correct.
alliance credits. But don't you need like an alliance officer to stock a passport? Is that problematic at the start?
Yes. So one of the biggest, going back to like the do's and don'ts of a sleeper, one of the biggest no-nos for a sleeper is that you never tell a native that you're a sleeper. Natives do not like sleepers because that's essentially telling them, "Hey, I'm just here to eat your food and then leave."
Right.
You don't even say thank you. Uh,
Sure.
so yeah, what you want to do, this is one of the benefits of having a group, is that they'll have alliances where they're able to stockpile them with passports if they are able to plan that out. Uh, so you won't have to worry too much about that. But let's assume you are by yourself. You will want to aim to be an officer in some alliance so that you're able to buy yourself a passport with 600,000 individual credits.
Got it. So
Um,
for newer players of the game, I'm showing my alliance screen here. We're talking about the shop. This section of the shop is stuff that you can buy as a player in the alliance. This section over here uses these alliance credits, and that's what the leaders of your alliance does to stock the alliance shop. So a leader of an alliance or an officer of an alliance could put a passport page in there for you. And if you were free to play and you had the individual credits accumulated, there's a bunch of ways you can get these. I'll kind of put it up on the screen real quick if you want those details. But then you could go and buy one of these passports if it's in the shop. And that's to your point, like you don't want to really like let people know that you're planning to migrate, because why would they support you, especially in those very early days of a kingdom? Like there's a lot of things that an alliance leader could be stocking in the shop that delivers value to the people that will continue to be in the kingdom. So yeah, you definitely could get yourself in a spot of trouble if you broadcast that you're a part of a sleeper without like being in that special alliance with a team that's all doing it together.
yeah. No, being with a group makes the sleeper process so much easier and so much like less complicated because the leadership will do all the complicated stuff for you.
Yes, they do all the thinking for you. You just need to show
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah, you just need to be there and you just need to play the game and enjoy the process.
Okay.
The leadership will handle all the problems for the members.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share in this video about the sleeper process, either do's or don'ts? Any other critical information?
So one of the common things I see people overlook are the quest lines that give you a bunch. They give you a bunch of a variety of different resources and speed ups. Just a lot of goodies, and people tend to overlook them. One of the ones I'm talking about is there's a side quest line that gives you about 2 weeks of speed ups just for pressing the alliance help button. And if you're able to take advantage of that, then you'll obviously be able to power up a lot more than the others because you have 2 weeks of helps and they don't have that. Uh, so what I'm trying to say is like they're very tiny details that that are able to help you a bunch going into the sleeper process. As I mentioned, the helpline, the side quest line for helping your alliance members, you get weeks of speed ups just for pressing a button. Um, and then there's also gathering resources on the map. That's a must do. You will not have enough resources to power up if you don't do that. Uh, and to reiterate, one of the two biggest don'ts are don't go over the power cap depending on your kingdom. That's 10 million or 25 million. And then don't ever tell anyone outside of your group that you're a sleeper. You will
Okay.
That will jeopardize your process and most likely lead to ruining your account.
GG. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. The do's and don'ts, the ins and outs of the sleeper process. I feel really good about this guide, and I'm glad that you're here to help explain it because, to be honest, like I enjoy the end game. That's where I put my time and attention. I don't have any intention of making a new account all over again anytime soon. So we're really fortunate to have your experience today in this video. I'll have that link down below if you want to join Vast and his 1,700 players that are doing this together. And if they have, I guess, any other questions, they'll follow up with you there, or I'll make sure to update the pinned comment with any new information about this process. As I think I mentioned at the start of this video, this represents a snapshot in a moment in time. I think that things like the sleeper process are so powerful that they probably will get patched out of the game at some point. But they haven't yet. So while it's here, you should capitalize on this meta. It's very powerful.
Yeah. No, the sleeper process will eventually get significantly nerfed. I don't know how a removal would work because a passport's a pretty important item in the game, unlike the beginner's immigration item for the jumpers. But sleepers will receive some sort of nerf in the near future.
And other than sleeping, like, I mean, you either make a new account and you just start in a new kingdom and you start playing the game, or you do this sleeper process. Those are like the two ways to do this, right?
Yeah, those are the only two options now.
Okay. There used to be another process called a jumper process. And if you want to see all of that and a little bit of a breakdown of like the history of how this process came to be and what your options used to be, all of a card in the end screen for the last time we had this conversation and we chatted about the sort of removal of that jumper process. It was really crazy. Thanks again for hopping on to make this video. Check the link down below for their Discord server. Check the card at the end screen here for the detailed video about that jumper versus sleeper process. Until next time, you guys have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.